Hello, namaste everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is one of the requested videos by you people, which was about Gandanta planets and Gandanta ascendant. So today, I think I have not made any video on Gandanta or Gandanta planets ever. So let's just talk deeply about how the Gandanta plays out, how the results will be when a planet is in Gandanta or altogether your ascendant is in Gandanta. Okay, but before that, if you guys are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you guys would like to have your personal readings from me, you can check out the link in the description box, www.anmollastrology.com. Under the readings and unique reading section, you can book a personal reading for yourself. And also under the courses section, you can sign up for the online courses. Okay, so let's get to the video for Gantanta. So Gantanta is basically a Sanskrit word. It's formed as Gand Tanta. Gand means knot. It's like a karmic knot. Anta means end. So Gantanta basically is like a rope, but which is having knot at a certain point. Now, this knot means that there is some obstacle, there is some, up and down. If you are, suppose you're going on a road and there's a speed breaker, your speed would get slow. You'll have to bounce on that speed breaker and then you will push up, your speed again, because that would, go to a certain level. That would decrease to a certain level and then you'll have to push it again. So speed breakers are basically there to break your speed and for you to restart with your speed again. That's the similar thing with Gantanta planets. That's a very similar thing with that. So Gantanta planets or the Gantanta points are referred to the karmic knots which trigger transformations, which triggers something coming to an end for something else or something new to start, for new beginnings to start by ending old patterns. That's the simplest meaning of Gantanta planets. Now, if we see by the degrees, so it's a tenure, it's a range of 3 degrees in 20 minutes. Most prominently, like the wide range is actually if a planet is 3 degree 20 minutes towards the very end of a water sign, as in Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, and is entering or is at 3 degrees 20 minutes in the very beginning of a fire sign. So basically, Gantanta is about when you go from the water to the fire. And in case of Rahu Ketu, it's reversed. They go from the fire to the water. So you are changing the element. We will talk about the element change once we get to that point. But before that, understand that, going from, let me see, I've written the degrees. Yeah, going from 26 degrees, 40 minutes to 30 degrees of the water zodiac signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. That is the Gantanta frame. But from 29 to 30 degrees is when the most intense effects are to be seen. Whereas on the fire side, the range is 0 degrees to 30 degrees and 20 minutes of Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Okay. And the most significant degree is from the 0 degree to 1 degree of Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. And you will see that the nakshatras that actually hold this Gantanta is all the nakshatras of Mercury and Ketu. And that is the reason why people born in Mercury or Ketu nakshatras are known as Gandmul. They are known to be Gandmul children because they're bound to go through something transformative. They're bound to go through something very, very, evolving. So the nakshatras like from Revati, Ashwini, Ashlesha, Magha, Jyeshtha, Mula. These are the nakshatras involved. Now let's just talk about, the elements. Why it is the Gandanta point. Now I'll tell you something which is like quite, I think it is quite understandable, which is that when you, you know, every one of you would have been in a pool, right? On a sunny day, you might have been in water, you might have been in the pool. You see how you get out of that pool in a very hot, sunny day. As long as you are in the pool under the water, you feel as if your sun is, fine. Sorry, your skin is fine. It is being hydrated, it is covered with water, and you're feeling the, in that hot sunny day, you're feeling that soothness from that water. And then if you get out of it and you set your foot on the ground which is heated, which is burning out, how would you feel? Most probably your feet are going to feel like burned out. You will want to run and see a place where there is shadow, right? So that is one of the experience you are going to feel in Gandanta. You feel the burnouts. You feel burnt into that energy. If it is water, you feel burnt with the energy of water because you're moving towards the fire. If you are into the fire, you have just gotten out of the water and you're just rushing into things. You're just getting on with that. I need to get to a space of shadow. I need to get to a space where I'm no longer feeling that heat on my foot or on my body, over my body. So that's the simplest way you could understand, by elements work beautifully. I feel, and this is something I also teach in my, astrology courses, that once you understand the element, that's about it. You are going to be able to predict at least 90% of things just using elements. That is how important they are. That is how strong they are. So also, you see, whenever there's a candle or anything that is basically burning, you put water into it, want water onto it. There's a kind of smoke that comes out as soon as the water touches that fire. That is the smoke which it brings, which this Gandanta point brings. So as a practical, as a practical implication, it is going to make you feel burnt out. It is going to make you feel that pressure. It is going to create an obstacle. These points are basically spiritually activated. They are karmically activated, and you're bound to you burn yourself out so as to go through this transformation, so as to evolve through this. Okay, so now we are going to talk about planets and the ascendant. So the two case scenarios which happen with Gandanta is either that your ascendant is going to be on a Gandanta point, or your planets are going to be on the Gandanta point. So if you have your ascendant at the Gandanta point, right? So that means that overall, whole of your life is going to be affected. Overall, everything in the surroundings, it's more circumstantial. It's not based or focused on one particular planet. It's rather a whole energy, a whole shift into your, like, it's like a 360-degree shift into your life. It's a 360-degree shift into everything that you do. And when it is about planet, then it becomes specific shift. Like in case of moon, it's specifically about the emotions, about the happiness, about your comforts. If it is about sun, it's specifically about your personality, about your respect, about your ego, about your presentation, right? So that is the difference between ascendant and the planets. So now we are going to talk about how each and every planet is going to feel in each and every Gandanta zone. Okay. So first of all, you would see that every planet which is in the Gandanta of the fire side, like if it's at the very initial degree or very first pada of the fire signs, as in Ashwini, Magha, or Mula, that planet is going to go into the sign of Aries, in the Navamsha of Aries. Every planet in the first pada of the fire nakshatras or the fire zodiac signs, the very first nakshatra, that basically goes into the Aries Navamsha. Whereas when we consider the water zodiac signs, the very last pada of the water zodiac sign, water zodiac nakshatras, the last nakshatra, which is Ashlesha, Jyeshtha, and Revati. The very last pada is going to land in the Pisces Navamsha. So when you want to learn about Gandanta planets, just know that these two zodiac signs become extremely important for you. So whenever a planet is at the earliest degrees of a fire sign, it is looking for its identity. It's looking for its actions. So most of their karma, most of their karmic obstacles, their karmic baggage, their karmic knots are to be considered with their personality, their actions, their initiation. Every change, every possible change has to happen within their personality, within their thinking pattern, within the way they act. Whereas every planet, when they are in the last degrees of water zodiac signs, that has to deal with psychological issues. So every planet in the Cancer side towards the very last degrees has to deal with some patterns, emotional traumas, turmoils, emotional evolvement, or the situations are going to be triggered because of deep rooted issues or some emotional changes, some changes which are more psychological in nature. Okay, so that's a typical understanding, or that's a overview understanding of these elements. Now let's go specifically with the planets. So let's first start with Sun. So when we talk about Sun, when Sun is at the Gantantas of the water zodiac signs, if suppose you have your Sun in the last pada of Ashlesha, last pada of Jyeshtha, or last pada of Revati, you would see that here your ego transforms because of some sort of humiliation, some sort of dissatisfaction that you feel. In the case of the sign of Cancer, it's more about you have felt the deception because it is Ashlesha Nakshatra. You have felt jealousy, you have felt revenge, you have some inner, you have some emotions related to all of these things, some very toxic emotions that you have held in your heart, which actually made you feel quite dissatisfied out of the situation or emotionally hurt out of the situation. And that's why you're just dealing with your psychology, you're dealing with your personality, as you want to work towards your personality, that I want to work through all of these toxic feelings, and I want to escape, I want to find my spiritual self through this through this problematic situation of resentment, from getting hurt from your own expectations. That's what sun creates here. If we talk about Scorpio in Jeshta, this makes you deal with power struggles. Your ego goes to one level because this is one of the nakshatras ruled by Indra. It's about power. It's about, attaining the throne, claiming the throne. So you actually feel, or you transform because of your ego. You transform because of a situation where your ego just goes into shatters. It just shatters down into pieces. And this happens, kind of a humiliation happens, or kind of evolvement or transformation happens because you struggle with your power. You struggle with, like for example, you have been at a situation where you feel that always things work out for me, or I have a certain platform, or I have a certain kind of ego in front of the public, or out there. But then what happens, that there comes a time whenever this gets activated by the way of maybe transits, by the way of dasha, antardasha, pratyantardasha, you start feeling that, I am being undervalued. I'm not having the power. The power is in someone else's hands. The power is in someone else's, choice. I'm no longer the powerful person, and have the control over the situation. That is the point when you go through that transformation. That is the point when you get the understanding and wisdom, because you're moving towards Mula, you're moving towards Sagittarius. And what it is about, it is all about wisdom. It is all about higher lessons and learning, right? Creative self, understand your own psychology, understand the old patterns, go through those old patterns, evolve through them. That is the journey for you. Then if we have sun in, suppose, in the later degrees of Pisces, then you're moving towards Aries. You actually face difficulty through isolation and underconfidence. You have a habit of depending. You have a habit of having codependent relationships, or depending upon the others. And because of this, you do have expectations, and maybe the other person is independent, and they are not, being able to carry you with themselves. And that becomes one of the reasons which actually makes you learn the lesson towards being independent. And that's what Aries is about. That's what Ashwini is about, to understand your own confidence, to be a alone leader, to learn how to not depend on others, to learn to lead a team, lead something. So that's what sun's energy does, when it is in Gandanta, because it wants you to understand that it does give emotional frustration, it gives emotional burden, but it wants you to evolve into a fire energy. I won't say, because it would land you into the sign of Pisces, and Pisces is a very dual energy. It does gives you emotions, but on the other hand, it gives you that initiation. Also, I always talk about the duality of Pisces. I always talk about the two sides of Pisces, because these are two fishes revolving one after the another, right? So that's with sun. Now let's talk about moon. So when it is about moon, suppose moon goes through the later degrees of the water zodiac sign. So if it is in the nakshatra of Ashlesha, that means that your emotions, you may go through emotional deception that actually leads you towards holding a command over your personality. This moon is a very, very intense moon in the Ashlesha Pada 4. Very intense moon. Because this moon is basically you evolve through your own expectations, you evolve and transform through your own emotions. You try to be there for the others, but your own expectations make you go through that transformation. Your own expectations basically burn you out. Okay, so that is the reason why these people go through major transformation when it comes to their emotions. So that's all about your emotional and you experiencing the karmic journey of transformation through your emotional state. So something in your life would happen which where you will feel either deceived by a person, deceived by the mother, or even deceived by God itself, and basically which is going to lead you towards healing the ancestral patterns. There's definitely a heavy karma associated with the mother. And in the case of moon, it is with the father. Now, if moon goes through Scorpio. So when it is in the last degrees of Scorpio, emotionally, you want to feel in control because that's Jeshta. Jeshta's theme with moon going there is all about jealousy. It's all about being the one who is, being left out, being left alone. Because Jeshta was the eldest one, Jeshta wanted to have that pedestal of being the eldest one, of being the favorite of the moon, but it didn't. But Jeshta was not. That's why the feelings like the toxic feelings of revenge, vengeance, control issues, abusive nature, addictive nature, all of that comes in. And that's what basically you experience emotionally, psychologically, which basically leads you towards transformation. And after Jeshta, you enter Mula, all about lessons, all about divine intervention, all about, wisdom. And that's what you deal with. That's the kind of transformation. You are here to understand the wisdom through your emotional transformation. Right? And then comes the last one, which is the Revati. When moon is in Revati, it's all about escapism. It's all about, depending heavily with your emotions and with your expectations. So in Revati Pada 4, you feel that burden of other people's trauma. You feel that addictive nature, you feel that oblivion nature. Also, you feel very confused with the polarities, and that basically transforms you, going towards independence, going towards firmness, understanding your own self and your own choices. So very, very confusing stage is. So the karmic knot for you is to untie this dependency, untie this oblivionness, untie overthinking, untie this polarity and duality with your psychology, I meant. Right? So next planet is Mars. Mars is about your energy. Right? Mars is about your it is about your energy, it's about your discipline, it is about your efforts, your actions, your courage. So, one of the things is that planets like Moon, Venus, and Mars actually feel quite frustrated in Gandanta points. And even Sun also does to some extent, like to much extent, because that is also a fire planet, an extremely fiery planet. So it doesn't feel good when it is in the Gantanta side on the, water signs. So on the water ends, it is basically Jupiter. I will actually talk about this in the very end, because I think not everyone is going to view the Mars concept. So, about the Mars, you feel on the Gantanta side, Gantanta on the water end, it is more about frustration. In Ashlesha, it's deception with actions. You yourself, you either deceive yourself or are being deceived by your closed people, by your friends, by the people in your surroundings. And it's also your self deception, because Mars originally rules the first house. It is the eighth house. It's also the deception from the in-laws. So you feel the manipulation, the deception from either your own expectations or from these people that I mentioned. And that basically makes you lead towards an individual who has to deal with it's his or her own personality, to understand your own actions and be responsible for them. So it's like it's with Mars, it's a struggle, it's a very karmic situation, because already Mars is debilitated here. Mars doesn't feel well here, and on top of it, it feels deceptive. It feels that its energy is basically being exhausted without even having any meaning to it. So it's a very exhausting energy which comes here with Mars being in the Gantanta point. So it's a massive transformation that you go through, and for that you need massive amount of courage. This makes you learn courage. This makes you learn about your confidence. So the transformation, the lesson is about that. Now, if suppose you have Mars in Jyeshtha, it's a psychological struggle again. You know why? Because Jyeshtha is a nakshatra associated with power, power struggles, control, hold of something. And when Mars is here, you just get a situation or circumstance, or whenever this gets activated, you get a situation where major transformation occurs for you, because Mars is one of the karkas for your transformation. It's extreme, Mars and Saturn and Ketu, these three planets, extremely transformative. So when it is on the side of Jyeshtha, it makes you deal with the any toxic emotion, you call it, having power struggles, having issues of control, have psychologically feeling the immense pressure that you need to control things, you need to go, you need to dive deeper into things, you need to transform, you need to evolve. All that pressure leads you towards learning lessons, because next is the sign of Sagittarius. It wants you to learn lessons about your own vitality, your own, personality, your own actions, your own mindset. A person definitely wants to establish their status. They want to establish their, they actually go through immense problems regarding their status. They're very conscious people, very conscious of their status or how people are perceiving them. And that's because they always want to be in the limelight, but on the other hand, they feel it, they feel that they find it the hardest to actually sustain in that limelight. It's like they're trying to push towards that, but this water energy is keeping them introvert, is keeping them down. And if we go towards the last, if Mars is in Pisces, that's, that's the energy where Mars feels quite frustrated, because Mars keeps on just accumulating all the energy like a pile of books, pile of papers. And then the burst out happens, and this burst out majorly happens in this scenario, when there is Gandanta, when Mars is in the later or the last degrees of Revati. That's where you feel, I want to get out of this situation, I want to get out of this frustration, this environment. I want to just go towards spirituality, I would go towards something I can do. Like it's like it's a foundation there. You are into a boundary, and you feel that your actions are not coming, you're not working towards your potential. That's what it makes you feel. And the evolving nature or the transformation is you to understand, how do you lead, how do you work towards your own personality, towards your own actions. That's the transformation you deal with. You transform because you start understanding, or you start dealing with the problems of your own psychology. And that's why these people can actually be excellent healers, excellent psychologists, excellent doctors. Okay, so you go through a very boundary bound a place which is holding you down, and then you come out of it. That's the situation with this Mars. Now Jupiter, if Jupiter is suppose sorry, I was in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that how long this video would go. Okay, so if it is Jupiter, so in the sign of Cancer in Ashlesha, it's about wisdom, it's all about your wisdom. So you will have to deal with lessons that you get through your encounters with people, or through you helping others. And you get deception, you get deceived by your own gurus, by your maybe husband, by a person you felt that this is a person who is a guide to me. So the deception comes from them. And then there's an emotional I won't say it's an emotional dependency, but emotionally you expect from that individual, you expect, you're very overgiving with your wisdom, you're overgiving with your helpful nature. And that basically leads you to basically prioritize your priorities further down the lane. That's why your transformation happens through situations and circumstances which hit you hard with your wisdom. And then you identify your own self. You identify that there has been, this is a pattern which has been leading since lineages, since a long time in your ancestors and everything. You have to deal with ancestral issues. You have to deal with ancestral deception or family deceptions, so as to get out of it as a leader, because that leads you towards Leo. That leads you towards mythology, astrology. So these are the people who are going to dive deeper into such subjects. And maybe you have carried it forward basically from any of your ancestors. Now, if suppose this Jupiter is in the later degrees of Scorpio in Jyeshtha, you start developing this sense within yourself that you are the one in control. You are the one who knows everything, who knows all the knowledge, and who wants the bigger piece of everything. You start having that control issues. You start having like, people should come to me for advice, people should come to me for everything. And then are hard stuck by a situation where your own wisdom makes you feel deceived, or makes you feel a bit embarrassed about your own learning, about your own actions. So that's what leads you towards, since the next sign that is upcoming is Sagittarius, that's what gives you lessons. Your own psychological issues gives you the wisdom about you. It gives you the guidance. And definitely, with Jupiter being in the Gandanta points, there's always deception from gurus. There's always deception. Not always, I would say, but it, of course, you add the flavor, you'll know about it. If there is a certain more planets there, there's a conjunction of certain planets, there's a, pressure of other planets, then the story would be different. But ultimately, there's deception. For females, there's deception from the male counterparts, from gurus to everyone, whether you are male or female. But definitely, here is the most power struggle that you face. Okay. Now, the last one would be Jupiter being in the last degrees of Revati. Now, here, Jupiter does have a lot of wisdom. Jupiter does have a lot of things in the mind, but is fully confused, with its decision, and doesn't know where you are heading. You feel confused about your beliefs. You feel confused about what you want to do. You feel confused about how to expand, how to grow. So the growth gets affected here. You find it the hardest. You know everything. You know the knowledge. You know how things are going to grow, but you lack the energy to go there, because you have now been set up in the boundaries and you want to break them. But it gets very frustrated because of water sign. You need to heal your obliviousness. You need to heal those old patterns. And then only you can go ahead. Right? Now with Venus, Gantanta, it's all about relationships, relationship barriers. When suppose Venus is in the sign of Cancer, in Ashlesha, deception from relationships, having intense sexual relationships, but then feeling the pressure, feeling the burden of your own expectations, feeling the burden of your own, of deceptions, of your own emotions. And I'm not saying that these are the people who are going to get deceived. These could also be the people who can deceive. Of course, a lot of things have to be seen. The condition of moon specifically has to be seen, whether or not you're capable of cheating. Okay, so with Venus coming into Ashlesha, it is actually going out, or it is actually trying to evolve. It is trying to evolve through, it is going to find its way. It's Nagas. They find their way out. But that journey is crisscross. It's never the straight journey. So they might experience a lot of deceptive partners, or maybe emotionally abusive partners. Emotionally intensity is there. And that is basically what you have to deal with to take out that knot, and then go forward towards the Leo energy, towards that independent and charming energy of Leo, confident energy of Leo. You find your confidence through getting deceived from your relationships. Definitely, this is also one of the placements of a person who dives deeper into this knowledge, Vedantic, this occult knowledge, right? Then, if we have Venus to be in the last degrees of Scorpio, as in Jyeshtha, again, the feeling of vengeance, the feeling of revenge, the feeling of jealousy is something that is going to transform you. That is something you are going to feel in your relationships, or you're going to experience power struggles within your relationships. You might have a partner who is extremely dominating, extremely controlling, and wants you to just being tied down with you, with that person, of course. And you want to break those boundaries, because then the next sign is the sign of Sagittarius. It is about lesson, but it is about freedom. It is about feeling high spirited, expansion. So Venus being in Jyeshtha, definitely on the later degrees in Gandata, makes a person feel quite, quite of a burden, because these people are definitely the ones who would love to do certain things for their partners, that they would actually, make the other person their whole life. But that is the burden they experience because of relationships, and because of which they end up getting married late, because either they feel they get that deception, or just situations deceive them. Any deception from the relationship partner, deception from the god, universe, or the relationship itself, or the scenarios of the relationship, basically transforms them, gives them karmic baggage, right? Lastly, if Venus is in Revati, that is said to be exalted, but at the same time, this makes you deal with the imaginative side. See, if the sign of Pisces is about, you know, the imagination, the dreamy land, then Aries is all about being the action oriented and the realistic one, who has just entered this plane of this universe and wants to act upon, because you can see the potential of opportunities there. So, this Venus can feel the burden of boundaries, can feel the burden of intoxication or ethicalness in a relationship. So, it's like a person evolves through their own dependency on their relationships, their own expectations. They transform through that. They transform through their own escapism or their own addictions. They have to deal with it. They have to deal with those knots, and they have to be a sports person, a player, you know like, we do in certain reality shows, there are tasks to be done. So it's like, for the journey of a person with gantantas is to complete that rope, to untie all the knots in the rope. Okay, so we are done with Sun, Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Venus. Let's go for Mercury now. So Mercury, if is in the Ganta, see, Mercury has to deal with your intellectual self. Actually, Mercury has to deal with everything, because your mind, your nervous system is the one who gives the signals, and it becomes extremely important. Mercury. Mercury is your adaptability, it's your communication, it's your understanding, how you understand and perceive the message. So that's why Mercury being at the Gandanta is full of confusions. It basically can make you the most unstable because of the gandanta, the karmic knots. So you would see that there's always a lot of confusion with a person with Mercury in the last degrees of Ashlesha, last degrees of Jyeshtha, and last degrees of Revati. This person may also have identity crisis. Their transformation is all about going through massively transformative events, massively disheartening events, or loss of someone in their life. And that leads them towards their transformation, their evolvement. So, Mercury in Ashlesha or in the sign of Cancer, your own emotions, your own expectations, your own overthinking, your own emotional based decisions are going to make you deal with this karmic loop. And basically it leads you towards being confident of your decisions. It first confuses you with what you want in life, and then it transforms you into a person who is far more confident, who just has their priorities sorted. Okay, then if suppose this Mercury is in the nakshatra of uh Jyeshtha, then it's more about like it's actually the typical side. Mercury is its own lord of all these nakshatras. So Mercury being in Jyeshtha, with sudden events of your life, with secrets of your life, and secret or sudden things coming out in your life, sudden events happening in your life, you evolve, you learn, you get your wisdom, because these sudden events actually just transform you completely, transform your life completely. For example, for example, I'm just giving an example, you may lose someone. Suppose that, your dog died, and that is going to change you completely. That is going to transform the way you think, the way you build, everything within yourself, the way you react, the way you communicate. That's what Mercury in Gandanta creates. Suppose this Mercury, and with Mercury in Jyeshtha, it's more about the power struggles. It's more about a person dealing with all these toxic emotions, overthinking, over control, trying to put their control over situations. And when that doesn't happen, they just go on and they just go towards that transformative zone. They learn. They learn through their own setbacks, which they intentionally create. Okay. So next we have Mercury being in Revati. That's a very oblivion Mercury. That's a very addictive Mercury. Because see, I always say Mercury, very important planet, because it is going to make you decide what to do. It is about your decisions. So having that in the sign of Pisces is like, and that too in Revati, is like that you're deciding on either addicting to something or either doing extremely opposite, being oblivion, being just away from the situation, always confused, always stuck in dilemma, not being able to decide on something. And then over a period of time, you transform and you understand your priorities. You understand where you have to head. Because what is the next sign that is coming in? That is Aries. Independence, initiation, being a leader. So how are you supposed to lead something? only when you are capable to have a very strong determination, right? So that's about Mercury. Now, Saturn. So with Saturn, what happens that Saturn is all about structure, stability of your life. Saturn is all about the way you understand the practical side of life. Saturn being in the Gandanta towards the water side is extremely important. It makes you go through struggles and practical checks within your personal life. You have Saturn in the sign of either Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. You deal with practicalities within the spaces where you connect yourself emotionally, like what? Family, home, mother, father, anyone could be there. So Saturn basically makes you deal with practicality within your personal life, and that makes you learn towards your professional life or towards your actions as well. Saturn being in the last degrees of Cancer sign in Ashlesha, you feel deceived by your own like co-workers or your own, on workers who are working within, within your under you, or maybe at your home, your servants. Or even if there is, this Saturn is your Dharakarka, it's your seventh lord, it could be from the spouse, it could be from the other person, anyone this Saturn is basically ruling is going to, you are going to have a lot of expectations, you're going to do a lot for that particular individuals. You overall do very much, you just are very sensitive of your own stability, of your own throne, and then you feel deceived because of your own expectations, and that makes you like more of a rebel. This transforms you into a very rebel energy to, finally just seeking things for your own self, right? But this Saturn makes you definitely, learn about deception within your emotional relationships, close relationships. If it is in the later degrees of Scorpio in Jyeshtha nakshatra, it's all about your career. It's all about career control, your career image, social image, your connection with the society. You see those individuals who go on the very top ranking, but then for some reason, for at some point in their life, at least once, they have to go towards the way beyond, towards the total shallow, to just, going off their rank because of one mistake that they did, because of maybe a kind of corruption they did, because of some action, some unethical action they did. That is what it is about, with Saturn being on the Kantanta, on the water signs, and especially with the Scorpio one. You misuse your power, and because of that, you get intense transformation, you get intense lesson, because this is moving towards Sagittarius. This is moving towards expansion. And for some people, they might just go beyond, like they just stay beyond their potential. And that makes them learn the lesson that they deserve more. They need to expand. They restrict their expansion basically because of their own fears. Saturn is fearful. Scorpio is fearful itself. And these people with Saturn on this Kantanta side have to deal with family issues, property issues, lineage issues. Now, Saturn being on the very last degrees or the last pada of Pisces as in Revati. This Saturn will give you the harshest lesson, even more than any other planet or any other zodiac sign, because it wants you to go away from your dreamy land. It wants you to be responsible. You feel like there could be situations where you need to address the situation, you need to take control of those situations, you need to be there, exist there, but you decided to either run away from it or to depend on someone else to deal with those situations for you. And that's why this Saturn makes you learn about how important it is to be independent, how important it is to be there for yourself, to gain confidence. Because here Saturn just feels, it's like you are under the water till here, and the little bit more water comes in and you won't be able to breathe. So Saturn will give you responsibilities. It will keep on giving you responsibilities till the time you start addressing them. You start addressing the practical side. You start addressing your responsibilities. Now, I think this has been a very long video, so I would make another video for the fire ones, for the planets through the fire Gandanta. But let me mention the remedies here, and I am also going to mention the remedies in the another video. Now, the remedies, first of all, would be to do the mantra jap. The mantra jap of the deities of these nakshatras. For Ashwini, you can do the mantra jap of Ashwin Kumars. For Magha, Pitris. For Mula, Niriti, goddess, goddess Niriti, the goddess of transformation, destruction. Then Ashlesha. For Ashlesha, you can do for the Nagas or Shiva. Then it's Jeshta. For Jeshta, you can do Om Indraya Namaha. You can preach to Indra, or you to Shiva. And lastly, it's Revati. For Revati, you can do to Pushan, the god, the solar god, or to Vishnu. So the mantra jap would be something that would actually balance the energy of this Gandanta. Then there are also fire rituals that are said to be done because it's an element of fire and water. And you put ghee, right? Ghee on the fire so as to ignite it. That's a yagna that you do. Do it on, like, you can do the Satya Narayan Puja, or you can do the Nakshatra Shuddhi or Shanti Puja. The Nakshatra Shanti or Shuddhi Puja has to be done at the time of birth of an individual, for that particular planet, or for the ascendant, or even especially when your moon is there. The Satyanarayan Puja you can do on a full moon day, or full moon day, like for example, you have a Gandanta of Revati, then find a full moon day which falls on a Revati day, and then have the yagna on that day. Okay, so these two are the most important remedies that you can do, and the other one would be charity. Okay, so guys, this was my analysis, and I think a huge one on the Gandanta planets. I will see you in the next video for the ones who have this in the fire Gandanta side. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care.